Okay, so first we are making our chorizo spiced braising liquid for our short ribs. So I've got some ancho chili powder and some paprika, some cumin, coriander, and kosher salt. And we have some black pepper, cinnamon, ground clove, and some minced garlic. And then not traditional, but I like to add 1 chipotle pepper. It's a wee bit spicy. So if you don't like super spicy stuff, you can leave this out altogether. You can also use smoked paprika if you want like extra smoky flavor. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of bone broth just to give it some substance here so it can blend up nicely. Let it rip. All right, I think we're ready to brown our beef. All right, so now it is time to brown our meat. We have some boneless short ribs here. I know chorizo is usually made with pork, but I just love braised beef so much, so we're breaking the rules today. I'm gonna go ahead and salt these really, really good. I shouldn't have dirtied this hand. So we're gonna add a little bit of neutral oil to the pan, whatever you fancy. I like to use organic expeller pressed canola oil because it is high in omega-3s. And it has a high smoke point. Make sure the bottom is thoroughly coated. Ooh, we're smoking, we're smoking. I'll turn the heat down just a bit. We do want the surface of this pan to be really, really hot because that's what's gonna give us a really nice golden brown crust. You want there to be enough fat in the pan to sufficiently bubble kind of around each piece of meat. It doesn't need to be drowning, just enough so that there's like a thin layer of oil across the whole bottom. Maybe a tablespoon total, maybe. We're gonna brown this on all sides. And we're gonna add in our braising liquid, the rest of our bone broth, and we're popping this baby in a low oven for like a few hours. Yeah. Oh. I mean, beauty. Love it. This thing does not have a low function. All right, so I just turned this down as low as I could without the flames completely going out. We have sufficiently caramelized our meat. Looks really, really good. Now it's time to add our bone broth and our braising liquid. And I think I'm gonna do the bone broth first to just kind of chill this situation out. All right, we're gonna add this. All right, so we're gonna bring this up to a simmer. And then we're gonna put the lid on and pop it in the oven. Okay, in it goes at 275, 300 for around 3.5 to 4.5 hours, or until everything just kind of pulls apart really easily. God, I love braised meat. All right, so while the beef is in the oven, we are going to prep our red onion for our pickled onions and some jalapenos for our queso. You can use gloves if you're worried about touching these and then touching something sensitive, you know? So I'm just scooping out the majority of the ribs and the seeds, but if you like it spicier, you can leave them in or leave some of it in. And then I like to finely chop these because they're going to go in queso. Oh no. Oh, you see, you know, you could wear gloves, but what if it squirts into your eye, huh? All right, now it is time to make our pickling liquid, and then we will make our queso, and around that time, our meat should be done, because I've just been kind of chilling here for a little bit, yeah? This pot is obnoxiously small for this hot plate. It may fall in, we'll see. All right, so we're making our pickling liquid. I like to be super simple with this. You can add all sorts of seasonings or whatever. I like to kind of just go with black pepper and salt, a little sugar, some vinegar. So first we're gonna toast our whole black peppercorns. Not really measuring anything here. It is very hard to screw this up. Ooh, ooh, you hear them start to pop? They get really fragrant. Keep them moving so they don't burn. All right, so now we're gonna add our red wine vinegar. And around 3/4 of a cup to a cup. We're gonna add some water to this as well. All right, I added maybe a 1/4 cup or so of water. And we're gonna add some salt, healthy pinch, and a little bit of sugar. Maybe like a teaspoon. If it ends up being too salty, too sweet, you can add more vinegar. It should really be to your taste at the end of the day. Just keep in mind, it is supposed to be heavily seasoned. It's supposed to have a very strong flavor because it's going to just infuse these onions, not like we're going to be drinking this liquid. Okay, so turning off the heat now that it's come up to simmer / boil there for a second. And usually I do this in the sink, which I do recommend, but since we're here, I'm going to just be careful. All right, so carefully pour all of this hot liquid into your onions. Let's see. Okay, see, already made a mess. All right, all the way to the tip top. Really push all those onions deep down. Good. All right, and that's it, guys. This just has to sit for a little while. You don't have to heat the liquid up if you don't want. You can just add the vinegar and everything to the onions. It just takes longer for them to pickle. So adding the hot liquid, these will be done in maybe 15 minutes, maybe less even. I am gonna wait for the liquid to cool off before putting this top on. Otherwise, we are ready for our queso, I think. All right, now it is time to make our queso. I love queso so much. The jalapenos that we diced earlier, we're gonna char them up nice and hot. So just adding a little neutral oil to the pan again. This is canola, about a teaspoon, not too much. And our jalapenos. Nice pinch of salt. This is dangerous stuff. So we want this to be over a pretty high heat because we want to kind of char them up in the pan. Meanwhile, I'm going to open up a can of evaporated milk. I like to use whole evaporated milk. You can use with that if you like. That's no fun. Fun fact, evaporated milk has about the same amount of fat as half and half, but it's got twice the amount of protein as whole milk and like way more protein than half and half. Holding my breath. Looking good. All right, I feel like these are about good. This is as much as I can handle. So now we're gonna add our can of evaporated milk. Because of the higher protein content, this can actually come up to a boil. We're not gonna bring it to a boil per se, we're just gonna, oh no! As I was saying, you can bring it up to a boil and it won't split like half and half would. You just wanna bring this up to a gentle simmer, and then we're gonna turn down the heat just a touch and add our cheese and some collagen for some extra protein action. All right, so it's about at a simmer, we're adding the collagen. Half a cup, and this is 36 grams of protein. All right, so we're just whisking to dissolve this, make sure there's no clumps. And we're gonna let this simmer for a little while actually, just to reduce it a little bit more before we add our cheese. Doing this means we'll have to use less cheese to thicken the overall mixture for the same amount of protein. All right, now that it's reduced a bit, we're gonna start to add our cheese. I'm gonna turn the heat down. You could cut up the cheese, it's just white American. It's the best for queso, among other things. I just throw in the whole slices. Don't need to bother with the chopping. Oh, it's looking good. All right, let's go ahead and taste this now that the cheese is fully melted. You don't want it to be too thick right now either. We are gonna take this off the heat and it's gonna kind of tighten up a little bit. We wanna still be able to pour it over the nachos. The jalapeno flavor is so good. Need a little bit more salt. I'm gonna add some pepper. All right. You can see this is gonna be hot. I'll show you in the back of the spoon how it kind of stays there. That line. It's not going into that area that I swiped at all. So it's appropriately thick. And I think that our beef is about done. Oh boy. All right, so we've got this beautiful meat that's just falling apart at this point. All right, so I have a can of pinto beans that I've drained and rinsed. Whole thing's going in. Oh, looks beautiful. You can leave the beans out if you want, but it adds so much more fiber and extra protein. So now I have a lime. Ideally it'd be a whole lime, but this has got like a little wedge missing out of it. So I'm gonna zest this and then we're going to add the juice into here as well. Lots of beautiful green lime zest. All right. Hopefully we get some juice out of this. I microwaved it a little bit. It's supposed to help kind of loosen it up. All right. So I'm gonna add just a splash of apple cider vinegar as well, like a tablespoon. All right, here is our assembly station. I've got some tortilla chips that I put on a sheet pan and toasted in the oven for 5 to 10 minutes until they are golden brown and crispy and a little warm. First, we are going to add a little bit of our queso. I'm gonna just add like a circle of the queso on our serving plate here. If you wanted to build this on a sheet pan so that you could pop the whole thing in the oven after you're done building, you totally can, but it's not 100% necessary. So now I'm gonna take our warm chips. This is about 10 ounces of chips. Now we're gonna add some of our meat in here. About a quarter, I think I'm trying to do 4 layers here. And we are gonna follow that with more cheese sauce. So next we're gonna add some avocado. You can use a towel on this hand if you're worried about cutting it. Ooh, perfection. So I'm just gonna dice inside here. And again, if you're worried about going through the skin and cutting yourself, you can do this on a cutting board. You can put a towel underneath. And then from here, we're just gonna scoop out that flesh. And it's all diced up for us. So we can just sprinkle some of that in. So I'll use about half of this. Now the pickled onions. The one thing that you need to remember about these is you do not want to get those peppercorns in. They are not fun to chomp on. And last we've got some green onion. So we are going to repeat that a few more times and then we will reveal our masterpiece. All right, we're on our last layer. Woo. a little bit extra, but you can just use that for your individual portions. Put that on the table with the whole thing. The finishing touch. Oh my goodness. Maybe I should start from over here. Oh my gosh, this is a good one. Oh, look at that. I got some Greek yogurt off camera. Oh. I mean, look at this. Oh my goodness. We've done it. That's delicious. So cheesy. The meat is so luscious. So much spice, freshness from the scallion, the avocado, the Greek yogurt, the onion. Oh my gosh. And I'm so happy that everything is in every layer except for the Greek yogurt. It might make things a little slippery in there. Don't want to mess with the construction anymore. This is like a game. Kind of like this like double chip idea too. Oh my gosh. Mmm. Oh. Everything together just feels balanced and surprisingly not super heavy. Ooh, spicy. Oh man. I want one more. One more. Mm. All right, guys, meatball cheers. Mmm. That is so good. They're so moist. I'm happy with this cooking method, though I am going to make a change next time for even more potential deliciousness. Mmm. 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 So to cook these this time, I popped them in the oven at 400 for 10 minutes, and then I took them out. I had like gotten the sauce started and everything, and once the sauce was like bubbling, ready to go, I added the meatballs in. And of course, once I added them in, I noticed that I had way too much sauce. I wanted you to like be able to see the curvature of all of the lady lumps of my meatballs, my lovely lady meatball lumps. So they end up finishing cooking in the sauce. I meant to take the meatballs out of the oven when they were about half done, and I think they were a little bit more than half done. So I just popped them in at the end. The residual heat, mind you, when it comes out of the oven is going to continue to cook it, but you don't want to hammer these. Like, yes, it has more fat in it because it's sausage, so it's just inherently gonna have more fat, but chicken can still really dry out and be unpleasant. So you're doing yourself favors by making the meatballs with sausage in the way of like keeping it more moist than a normal chicken meatball would be. Mm. Mm. It was a big piece of kale. Mmm. Mmm. There's so much butternut squash in this napkin. I want more. All right, guys, I'm flippin' starving, so let's just do this. Do you hear it? There was so much mozzarella. I was like really thinking it was gonna be like super stringy. That's fine. Oh my God. P.S. I used Frank's buffalo sauce, which is like the only one to use. And the cream cheese and the sour cream add this amazing tanginess. And then I used the Dubliner cheddar from Kerrygold, which isn't specifically marked as a sharp cheddar, but it is a sharp cheddar. It's like very sharp, and that's what I topped the whole thing with too. Mm. Oh my gosh. It's so saucy. I'm so happy. Oh my God. Mm. 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 The noodles along the edges and the cheese along the edges, like a little crispy. Mm. 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 The chicken is so good. It's still moist. I love that I left it in the big chunks. I want to taste the chicken, you know? I don't want it to be so shredded up that it's like I'm getting like little tiny little bits of chicken. I much prefer it this hearty. Mm. Mm.
All right, guys, well, I'm gonna call it. Feeling pretty good right now. I really don't want to cross that line into being uncomfortable. This is freaking awesome. If you are a buffalo chicken fan, you are going to freaking love this. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this installation of mac and cheese mukbang, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.